live web chats, chatbots, messenger apps, web forms, web calling, callback, name them, quite a number. And just to have a feel of the CX channels that our audience are using, I would like to request that we go to menti.com and list as many channels as possible that your organizations are currently using to interact with your customers. So go to menti.com. Let me do a quick screen share and list as many channels. There you go, menti.com. ICX could also help post that code on chat and use the code 58174208. Go to menti.com and use the code that you see on your screens. And as we do that, one of the things I would like to mention that a lot of us in customer experience find it quite difficult, to get buy-in and to also find the right partner to support us integrate the different channels. And we did receive quite a number of questions already from those that have attended today's session. And these questions, I want to assure our audience, have already been passed on to the panelists, and they will be addressed during the conversation. Some of the questions, for example, there was one from Halima asking, how do I integrate all my reports to read from one dashboard? Maureen asking, how do I set up an omnichannel customer experience department? Anastasia asking, how do you ensure a similar experience across all the different channels? And additional questions will also be welcome as we go along, and this will be responded to if time allows. We still do hope, I don't know, Purity, I know we have less time than we had planned for, but we do still hope that at least by latest 1:10, we should be wrapping up the conversation. Let me see what we have on our screen. Purity, could you confirm that the team has been able to access menti.com?
Confirmed, confirmed, Lucy.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, we start seeing what's coming in. You can see that on your screen: email, telephone, self-service, Facebook, LinkedIn, Microsoft Outlook, physical visits still happening, Microsoft CRM Dynamics, and the like. So back to you, James and Limo, and probably starting off with James. James, what should we as CX professionals include in our checklist when sourcing for omni-channel solutions? Over to you, James.
Thank you so much, Lucy. And that's quite a significant question that I guess asked a lot of time by CX practitioners, and I'm happy to see some of those I've interacted with in the past on this call. I think the conversation should actually start on what are the demographics of your customers, because even as you map out the CX channels that you want to use, it's important that you just not focus on the technology, but you focus on the customers themselves. So start from understanding who are the customers that I'm engaging with, because if I'm offering micro insurance, for instance, my target customers is probably going to be a little bit different in terms of maybe compared to a financial services bank, right? So start by segmenting the customers, understand who are these customers, where are they located, what do they have access to? Because if you want to reach out to customers on SMS or on email, unless you are sure that these customers have access to a smartphone, have access to the internet, an email as one of the CX channels that you can use will not make sense in terms of getting results. So I think from where I sit, the most important first is to really evaluate your customers, segment them, know the customers. Who is James? Where does James live? Is James employed? What does James use in terms of communication? Does James have children? Is James married? Because now you are able to completely do micro-targeting when you are communicating to me and when you're selecting the channel that you want to use. I think that's my take in terms of choosing the channel.
Okay. So we don't first come up with a checklist. We need to first of all work very closely with those in marketing. Limo,
Right.
anything you'd like to add on that? Do you feel we need to have a checklist, and on that checklist there needs to be A, B, C, D, or what's your take?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting us as well. The call, I have Simon Kandier and Rory from Salesforce, as well as my colleagues and everyone in general. Thank you for giving us the opportunity. So to answer the question, yes. First thing I'd like to differentiate, this is coming mainly from a lot of the questions which came in yesterday, is we need to differentiate what is multi-channel engagement and omni-channel engagement. Maybe I'll just throw it out to the audience, but because of time. So ideally, when you have, 10 channels and you're engaging all your customers, but none of these channels are connected. So you have a system for mobile, you have a system for social, you have a system for emails. That's a multi-channel engagement. And today's talk is more about omni-channel, which means all these systems are talking to the same customer record. So the customer is the center of everything. So just after clarifying that, and also from our research, on average, customers use about 10 channels. So you need to have a strategy that goes around the various channels. So to answer the question, maybe I can just give a short, very short personal experience. A few weeks ago, I was buying a gift for a friend of mine to one of the e-commerce platforms in Kenya, and I wanted to do a very personalized message on the gift. So I did send I went to the website, ordered, and put the personal image message on the gift, and then I did get a response of confirmation. So I did call back after 2 hours asking if they received the message. And the first thing this customer agent told me is that, oh, you did purchase through the website. I don't deal with the website. You'd have to send an email so that that person can deal with that. To me as an end user, it was very, very frustrating because I'm talking to the brand, right? So I had to go back and send an email and back and forth. And then they told me I have to send a WhatsApp message. So I was being bounced back and forth through 3, 4, 5 channels, and all because this is a multi-channel engagement, not an omni-channel. So the key things, the checklist that you need to push to look for when you're trying to get an omni-channel engagement is ideally, first of all, making sure the system has multiple channels, whether it's, and which I agree with the moderator, is that it has to be where the customers are, right? So one thing companies need to change is to understand that we're not telling a customer, you can only reach us on 1 or 2 channels. It's you finding out where are your customers and how can we reach them on those channels. So making sure all the channels that your customers are covered. The number 2 thing is making sure you're using one system at most, or you can do 1 or 2 systems, but making sure ways to reach out all these channels, because for your agents, customer service agents, to be so confusing if they have to log into 5, 6 different systems to serve the same customer. Then also just this system, make sure that it's a system that's very innovative. It has future development growth. It's not a system that's built once and you can't innovate. So how many releases does this product do? How often do they release new updates? Do they listen to you as a user so that they can improve the system? Because you always have to be innovative. The other thing you need to see is it has to be easy to use. You don't want to burden your customer agents with a system that they have to go and learn a lot on how to use. It should just be as easy as using Facebook or using Gmail, just a very easy system to use. It needs to have integrations to third party, because I'm assuming if, let's say you're an insurance company, I need to know what your policy details are, when is it expiring, while I service you. So it needs to have native integrations to third party systems. And it needs to have, of course, the 360 built in, which is when a customer sends an SMS or they send an email, I need to know everything about this customer. Is there an invoice that's overdue? Is there a new lead that I need to log about this customer? And lastly, it needs to have, as I said, in terms of innovation, it's capabilities of AI, because that's the future. AI would help you deflect requests, accelerate case resolution, and many other advantages of AI. But in summary, what you need to look out is for a connected system. So gives you a complete solution. You need to have personalized service. So I need to feel like I am Limo, and you're not calling me just as a customer. Very personalized to what I like as a customer. It needs to be intelligent, and it needs to empower the service team, right? So give them productivity tools to be able to solve these issues, the customer issues, very fast.
Thank you, Limo. I think what I'm hearing from you is that we need systems that have a single interface, systems that speak to each other, systems that are easy to use, systems that are intelligent. And it's very, very exciting that the CX professionals are today leading conversations about technology in their organizations. And they are saying, we don't want technology for technology's sake. We want to have technology that will help us make it easier to serve our customers, make the customers' journeys effortless, make them seamless. And we know that, of course, we need budgets, you know, to get these technologies in place. And a lot of decision makers in organizations are really focused on the bottom line. And based on your experience on the other side as the suppliers of this system, how have you seen CX professionals make inroads into really getting their organizations to have buy-in to get these omni-channel solutions that are available in the marketplace? What stands out for you? And probably we can start with you, James, and then Limo can build up on that conversation.
Thank you so much, Lucy. These are pertinent issues that we normally experience as vendors. When you're working with a lot of you in the industry and a lot of you in the market, there is a huge disconnect between the people who are driving CX in these companies, whether it is Lorna at KCB, whether it is Judith at APA, with the finance team and the procurement team. I think my take and what I would advise is to really identify who are the owners of these goals and these initiatives. Who do you co-own these goals with, right? Because you look at something like security within an organization, like maybe a bank. You can build security with probably co-own this goal with someone who heads IT or someone who heads security within the bank. So these are goals that you have shared, right? So involve these stakeholders very early in the conversation, with the conversation that you're having with vendors. Involve them quite early, but also try to align yourself with their KPIs and the goals, because people have self-interest even within these organizations. If that KPI is ahead of security, is something that you as someone who is driving customer experience within a bank or an insurance company can help me meet that, they are going to align with you in terms of helping you drive this. But also involve finance and procurement teams very early when you are doing you are mapping out the business case, because you always find some disconnect between procurement and finance in terms of what was the business case for this, right? Isn't it a very expensive solution? So unless you involve them quite early in the buying process, show them what is the return on investment for this, right? Sometimes it's very hard to quantify. For instance, if I receive an SMS from KCB telling me, we only call you from 07210000, don't ever receive another phone call from any other number. That's probably something that is being driven by security and the fraud prevention team, right? But it ties into customer experience for me as a customer, right? So try to identify which goals you co-share with other departments, which goals you co-share with the other owners of the initiatives with the bank, and align with them quite early in the buying process for some of these.
Wow, great insights there, James, because I think the message you're putting out to the CX professionals is that we need to own these initiatives with others in the organization. It will be much easier for us to partner with those in IT, with those in security, with those in operations, because everybody is part of our customer experience, and make the business case strong and have finance and procurement involved in an early stage. All right, great. What about you, Limo? What has been your experience? Because we really want CX professionals to have omnichannel systems within their organization, and not all of them have them. What is it that they need to do to get buy-in?
Yeah, so just picking up on what James has said, it's, this is not an IT function, or it should not be a customer service function, right? So what we want to help companies understand is that anybody I talk to in your company, whether I talk to somebody in operations or accounts or the front office, and then somebody tells me that, oh, I don't actually deal with this product, or I don't actually deal with renewals, please just go and call this number. That to me as a customer, and customers are becoming very, very fast in these days, is represent your brand, and it's not how you want your employees to portray your brand. So the first thing you want to do is empower everybody in the organization. So by having a system, an omni-channel solution, or CRM, whatever product that enables everybody to represent your brand and to be able to just pick up the issue. If it's a phone call or an email that came in, I should be able to just log that ticket in the system and have somebody follow up, right? So then the second question that comes up is, why do I need to convince my management or my decision makers that, oh, you need to actually care more about your customers? You need to make sure our customers are happy. I mean, these are questions which should be resonate with everybody in the company. But obviously, the reason why we need to convince them is obviously there's a cost to it. It's not something that's free. It might not be. So it's a juggle between costs and the benefits that you get out of the system, right? So so if you put the customer at everything that you do, and making sure that anybody across the organization has the single record of this each customer, then the service would go up, right? So unless you're, I want to use this example, but if you're a monopoly, or if you're serving something that you're the only company doing it in Kenya, maybe you shouldn't care so much about your customer experience, because customers have nowhere to go. But in reality, each and every one of us, each company on the call, needs to improve their customer satisfaction. Make sure your customer comes back next year. Make sure that they're happy, right? So so as James said, this is not something you just go and purchase and turn on, and the company, and you suddenly have all the tools, right? This should be looked as a journey, a transformation journey, a digital transformation journey, and it should go across the whole organization, from the management all the way down. And it's something the ownership has to be driven. The ownership of this system has to come from the top, right? So, and changing the company culture and putting the customer at the center of everything. So the question I would ask everyone on the call is, what is the cost of not actually doing this journey? What is the cost of not implementing this system, right? Number one, if you have excellent customer service, of course you have higher retention, and you have higher referrals, and people talk about your brand. You'll have brand ambassadors, and you'll sell more, and you'll have a better bottom line, right? So if let's say your retention rate is, the customer retention rate, just pick a number, is 65%. So that means every year you're losing 35% of all your customers to other competitors. There could be many reasons for this, but the most obvious thing would be the level of service you're giving your customers. They're not happy, they're going to other competitors, right? So if you invest in the technology and the tools to bring even your retention rate from 65 to 70, so just a 5% increase, we all know that it's much easier to retain customers than going out there and doing marketing promotions to gain this 5% more customers. So obviously, in terms of convincing your management, is number one is the lost revenue you get immediately by the people not renewing your services. You're not getting referrals. You're not logging any of these new lost revenue that you're losing, right? So you need to just put the customer at the center of everything you're doing. Focus on the bottom line by just making sure you're not losing customers. So the questions I just want to leave the audience is number one, when you're considering any of the systems and convincing management, is, does it add value to the customer experience? Does it make it easier, faster for customers to buy and be served by the organization? So the answer is yes. Does it add value to the employees? We always forget that. Does it make it easy for your customer service reps, your front office, whoever is dealing with customers? Does it make them more productive, make them easier and easier for them to deal with customers and the customer issues? And lastly, does it add value to the bottom line? Does it increase your bottom line revenue? So if the answer to any of these questions is yes, then it should be an easy decision to put a business case together for your management. And yeah, and lastly, just any technology tool you're bringing, it should be owned by the brand. You need to own it. It's not just another tool. It's not like installing an email service where you just There's a lot to do. It needs a whole rethinking from the top and across the whole organization. Thank you.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. It seems like when we get our leadership completely sold to the value of CX, then it will be easy for us to have this conversation. And there's something there that you've said that has really stood out for me in terms of ownership has to come from the top. As CX professionals, we need not to be the ones owning what it is that we are proposing. The ownership has to be driven by our strategic direction. It needs to be part of our digital transformation efforts. And I then want to believe a lot of collaboration is needed between CX and all the other functions in this whole process. And I know already we do have some of our audience who are already using, or they've already employed omnichannel solutions. Some of them are probably even your customers. And the question that I would like to pose to you for their benefit and even for the benefit of those that are also considering omnichannel solutions, how can we on an ongoing basis evaluate, the suitability and the value of those solutions that we are using? What do you have to say, James?
First of all, Lucy, let me mention that the CX function will just become more important in organizations as we go on. It's not done, because when you think about it, the only differentiator right now in most enterprises, in most companies, it's not a product. I don't bank with my bank XYZ because they have a better product than ABC. I bank with them because they have better customer experience. And if the customer experience changes today, trust you me, I'm going to change my bank next month. I just need to give a notice to my employer that I'm changing my bank, right? So customer experience becomes super, super important because it's the only differentiator, right? Now going question of how do we show value that can face of some of these solutions over time. I think one of the most important is that the industry, and that's you, have to really collaborate with the players who are building customer experience solutions out there, right? Even in terms of not just collecting feedback about the usability and the return on investment of this solution, but also in terms of running POCs, in terms of also contributing to the product roadmap, because some of these products are going to be built through the feedback that is coming from the CX leaders, and these CX leaders are just channeling the feedback that is coming from their customers. So try to also get more involved with the people out there who are building some of these solutions if you don't have the capability to build these internally, so that you are also able to, to influence the product roadmap. I can tell you for certain that some of the solutions we have actually built internally as a company, a team for build, have been driven by players in the industry, the banks and the insurance companies and the NGOs coming back to us and telling us, this is the feature that could really help us in the market in terms of driving our customer experience journey. And we are very receptive to that and building some of those features. But also collaborate very closely with the people you are working with who have an outside eye to be able to, to influence also the product roadmap for some of these solutions that you don't have the capability to build internally, but you can influence your vendor to build some of these features for you.
Yeah, thanks, James, for that. And I don't know whether, Limo, there is something that you'd like to add on in terms of really evaluating the suitability of those omnichannels that we are already using, or to even be able to show the return on investment. What do you have to say?
Yeah, so this question, a lot of it has to do with how do you measure success of the system that you've chosen and you've worked with. So the first thing obviously is to have a benchmark of today, what is our customer retention, what is our customer satisfaction, what's the renewal rates, etc. And then once you have this system, how does it work after 6 months? And some of these things you don't even need analytics. It's quite easy to measure. For example, a story of an organization we're talking to where the CEO used to get a lot of calls to follow up on a particular issue, and it's the reason why that's happening is the CEO doesn't have a system to just check, okay, there's an issue that this has happened, and he can just check and follow up and call this customer, the customer, tell them exactly where the situation is. The CEO has to go down a few floors, go to a specific desk and follow up with somebody. So, having a system, immediately some of these issues is very easy to see. So do we go into some of what they need to measure in terms of how the system would benefit the company.
Yes, if you have some insights on that.
Yeah, so some of the things that we think once you have a system like this, you should check, obviously, is the Net Promoter Score, the NPS, the brand loyalty, customer satisfaction, and then SLA compliance. If you're making sure that customers have bought a level of service with you, is how often do you stick to that SLA compliance? How many guys, because it's been dropped by your salespeople or customer service people. Social sentiment, these are very important one out there. What are people saying out in general about your brand? You know, is it negative sentiment out there? What is a specific issue? Is it positive sentiment? Employee satisfaction is one thing. A lot of companies overlook. Are people happy with the system? Is it bringing value to their day-to-day operations? Fast contact resolution, this is very important. Are you enabling your front agent users to solve cases immediately, or do they have to walk to the back office, find somebody in finance and follow up on an issue? Also, how much revenue is coming in from the call center? So the cross-selling and upselling as well. Revenue by agent, you know, how long does a case takes to be resolved, and so on and so forth. These are just some very high examples of some of the things as an organization you should be looking at.
Thank you, Limo, for that. I think what I'm also hearing from you, there sort of needs to be a before and after. Even as we introduce these solutions, we need to look at what was the situation before, so that even as we measure the value that we are gaining, then we're able to see what has happened after the implementation of such solutions. And I have an interesting question here for you in terms of the solutions that are in the marketplace. A lot of them seem to target the large corporates, but in our community, you know, we have the likes of Johanna from Triple OK, we have people from Springboard, and these are medium-sized organizations. Is there hope for medium-sized organizations in finding solutions in this area? I don't know whether any of you, both of you, have solutions for the medium-sized organizations.
Yeah, maybe James, you're going fast. Yeah, so obviously I'm very biased. I would say there is a solution called salesforce.com. That's what we sell. But yeah, so the CRM is not, I think there's this perception that it's this huge, expensive system that you have to install. No, that's not true, because it's very, you pick and choose a journey and you can start within 2-3 weeks, be up and running. I won't talk about numbers, but it's something you're paying per user. So if you have 3-4 users, you can get started, and the CRM has various levels where if you're just trying to get started, yeah, there's an entry level price from even for $25 a user. So there's a lot of, it's not for the big organizations. We've even done the projects for a sales team as low as 5 people and customer service team as 5-6 people. So it's not for the big corporates only.
Okay, so with a minimum of about 5, that's okay. And even probably 3, you can still get a solution. All right, what about for you, James? Do you have an offering for the medium-sized organizations?
This is an area we have actually focused very strongly on over the last couple of years, because this is the area that is actually driving growth. And yes, we do have this. So we do offer omnichannel and not multi-channel, and the difference that Limo mentioned is quite important. So everything from SMS to email to cloud-hosted contact center that you can start as few as a single agent, and it is completely pay-per usage. So there is no capex; it's completely operational expenditure. So you don't have a contact center; you want to set one up across multiple channels: WhatsApp, email, SMS, live chat on the web. We can set up that one for you within a couple of days, and you just pay per usage, right? So we do definitely have entry-level packages that would suit the small and medium-sized enterprises.
And good to hear that. And as techies, you know, I don't know what important trends that you see in the future in the area of customer experience automation. You know, I'm realizing that many of us in CX are also becoming techies on the side. You know, we need to understand technology and how it works. Given that you probably have a broader perspective in that area, what do you see into the future on matters customer experience automation?
I think what customers, if I can take this first, what customers are asking for is that they want to communicate with the brands the same way they communicate with their family and friends, right? Whether it's my bank, I want to communicate to the way I communicate with my brother, the way I communicate with my sister. And so what you are seeing in the market now is as internet penetration, as mobile smartphones become ubiquitous, you're now seeing a lot more brands move to other channels like WhatsApp, because I mean, all of us here communicate with family and friends over WhatsApp, right? So you start now seeing WhatsApp become more and more important in the market. You look at brands like Safaricom, who have WhatsApp channel, they have automated things like frequently asked questions. And so this also goes back to, when you provide your customers with the channels they want, to communicate to you, the same way they communicate with their families, you provide an element of AI and automation so that you don't have every customer calling the contact care center to ask a question, so that if it's frequently asked questions, I can go on a WhatsApp bot, ask for what is a KCB, where's the nearest KCB branch, and the bot can respond to me automatically without me having to call the contact center. Number one, we are saving you the resources in the contact center to make sure that you only respond to more important questions and automating the frequently asked questions. So one of the biggest trends, of course, is going to be customers requesting to communicate to their brands the same way they communicate with their family and friends. And as you as a bank, an insurance company, a hospital, you need to be now present in those channels that your customers are asking for.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Very interesting. Yeah, Limo, yeah, you can come in. And, I was just thinking about WhatsApp, for example. Many of us never used to use WhatsApp for official communication, but now it's being used by many organizations. Yes, Limo.
No, I'm completely agreeing. And just on the same point that people don't want to be, traditionally we used to have call centers and email, and that's and walk-ins, of course, but what we're finding is customers want to be talked to where they are. So if they're on Facebook, if they're on WhatsApp or Telegram, whatever channel, actually you want to be able to serve them there. And the whole concept today is omnichannel. So being able to offer the same service to all these customers, regardless of where they are, whether they're sending a Facebook message or replying to a post or whatever it is, they should get the same SLS, the same level of service. The other thing we've noticed is we're moving, with now the COVID disruption, we're moving away from the traditional call center where you physically have to go to the call center, pick up your phone and handle customers, right? So what we're seeing is a distributed call center model where you have voice over IP systems, your CRM or whatever to have, and you're able to still do a distributed call center from your agents. Could be at home, could be in the office, it shouldn't matter. And the other trend we're seeing is millennials don't want to talk. The younger generation, they want to message, right? They want to send a WhatsApp message or whatever. So it's the same concept. So the call centers, the traditional call centers, should be one of the many channels and not the main channel that companies are doing. And then lastly, we're seeing a lot of with now more and more systems are taking up AI. So artificial intelligence. So having the bots talk with the customer first, do the basics, have a bot talk to the customer, take your phone number, your details, pull up your case record, pull up your policy, and ask the basic questions before the case is now transferred to an actual human being. That actually helps you handle more volume. And lastly, as well, self-service portal, we're seeing that people, the whole message is I think people are moving away from talking to somebody and just being able to serve themselves. So self-service portal, bots, messages, and so on and so forth.
Our customers are. And given that multiple channels can be a source of pain, then we must look out for solutions that bring all these channels together into a single interface. We have a few questions from the audience, and one of them is from Felix. And Felix is asking, social media channels are evolving to be an easier way of reaching out, I believe, to our customers. How do we work to ensure it doesn't veer off the official communication channels? Interesting. What's official, what's non-official? What thoughts do you have, James, regarding that question?
Yeah, I think there is a very narrow line in how we define official and non-official, because to the baby boomers, email is the official one, right? To the millennials, WhatsApp chat, Facebook chat, Twitter, reaching out to a brand on Instagram is as official as it gets. So what we are doing now is, and I circle back to what Limo was mentioning, we are moving away from on-premise contact centers and now having distributed contact centers. And these contact centers, even as become distributed, they also have to be omnichannel. So what we are doing even as we offer them in the market is to ensure we include channels like Twitter, both post and inbox, Instagram, both post and inbox, Facebook Messenger, both post and inbox, WhatsApp, Telegram, Viber, so that we now have the 360 degrees view of the customer interaction. So if you listen today, you reach out to KCB over 2 SMS to say, complain about your debit card, and tomorrow you think about reaching out to them over Facebook Messenger. The agent who handles those two queries should have a trail of what was said over WhatsApp, what was said over SMS, what was said over email, so that they are able to resolve that, right? So Felix, very narrow line between what is official and non-official. I think most important is to bring all those channels together. So that you have a complete 360-degree view of those interactions with the customer.
Yeah, so I don't have anything to add to Felix. That's exactly what we're both saying the same thing. And ideally, there was a question actually, which was on the question that came in yesterday, that, you know, should you use a social media mining tool or to go directly to social media and respond to cases? And to what we're saying together is, with Felix, is it shouldn't matter, right? Everything should come to the CRM or whatever tool you're using, and you should be able to respond to these customers on the platform, not on social. I think we just need to clarify that I'm not going to Facebook as an agent and replying to a customer on Facebook, right? I'll be handling them on one platform.
Yeah, thanks, Limo and James. And I believe in the future, organizations will even be asking their customers to fill in their social media handles. You know, I'm yet to see my bank, I'm yet to see my telecommunications provider asking me for that. And every time I contact them on social media, they're asking me, who am I, you know? And I'm like, I should be in your database, you know? Yeah, and here there's an interesting question from Judith, and I believe it relates to data security or confidentiality. And it's quite interesting how much information customers want to share. They don't even want to go onto DM and share that confidential information. And she's asking, when being present on these other channels, such as WhatsApp, how do you ensure you give service, but also maintain confidentiality and security for customers? What are your thoughts around that, the question of confidentiality?
So, yeah, so I would say it's just back to what I just said. You're not going as Judy or as so-and-so and replying to WhatsApp, because I see a lot of companies doing this where the agent is using their own social media or their own platforms to talk to customers, right? But once you have an omnichannel solution, if I work, I see this APA, if I work at APA, it will say, Judy at APA is responding to the post, right? It's actually an APA account. It's an APA Facebook. It's an APA WhatsApp. But once the data comes into Salesforce, sorry, not Salesforce, any solution of your choice, there is the protocols and the security already built into the CRM that ensures data privacy. And as I said, I'm biased with Salesforce. We're GDPR compliant. So the security is already baked into the system. That's why we need to ensure we're talking to customers from the platform and not directly on the Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever. It should be from the case module directly.
And I can see Judith has her hand up, and she's the one who had asked that question. So she probably wants to clarify. Please, Judith, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, Lucy, thank you very much. Just to clarify, it's more of, you know, the way when we do bots and chats and what have you, and we see a number of organizations and banks where you're able to start a chat and then maybe you'll be asked for your account number and maybe you're checking your balance, that kind of a thing. So all this information is left on the chat, right? So if someone else accesses the customer's chat, they will be able to see all that information. So the balance between being able to offer all this value to the customers, where they're saying, I'm coming to you on Facebook, give me information. I'm coming to you on WhatsApp, give me information. Tell me how much money I have. I can be able to withdraw or start the process on WhatsApp. So the balance between being able to provide service, but also helping the customers stay safe. I don't know how
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, go ahead. Maybe James can take.
Sorry. So if I can take that to Judy, and I'm certain that these are some of the conversations you have had maybe with one or two of my colleagues. So we are one of our WhatsApp implementation partners in Africa, and we have done a couple of these bots: Safaricom, Zuri bot, Stanbic bot, HFC banking bot, and the issue of self-security has been one of the most pertinent issues that we have to answer, right? So one of what WhatsApp does is that it doesn't encrypt the data once it gets to the. So during transmission, it encrypts the whole data, right? But on your mobile phone device, the data is not encrypted. So anyone can take your phone and go to your WhatsApp and be able to read that message, right? And so that control is entirely up to the customer. The security measures that we have introduced are, for instance, if I'm asking for my statement from APA Insurance, right, to authenticate that it is actually James on the WhatsApp channel chatting with the APA, we now have something like a USSD push, if I can wear my technical hat, USSD push asking you to input your PIN. Similar way you get when you're buying on e-commerce platform, M-Pesa pushes an SDK, asks you to enter your PIN. Now we have such authentication on WhatsApp because you can't enter your PIN on WhatsApp because it leaves a trail of your PIN on WhatsApp chat, right? But you can enter it on a disappearing USSD push and then it disappears. And that's one of the authentication that has mostly been implemented by companies in the market.
Oh, that was a bit technical, but anyway, I don't know whether Limo, you have something to add. Yeah, I know we don't want to get too technical. Yeah. But I think you're saying there's a way. And even as Limo comes in, there's a last question we'd like to pick from Flo, where she's asking, in the meantime, we are all hoping to get to that point where we can bring all these channels together and use a single interface to respond to our customer queries, to have those interactions. But what could we do in the meantime? That's a very interesting question, Flo, and I hope I captured it the way you wanted to ask, Limo, is there anything that we can do in the meantime?
So I think, as I said, CRM should not be this big implementation that you take 6 months, a year to roll out. We can start small, as I said, just say, let's have a quick win. Let's have a CRM rolled out in let's say less than a month. We just pick one department and we say, these are the only workflows. Basically what we have is, we call them quick starts, where you're saying, we're just going to have a very minimum set of best practice that we're going to roll out in 2-3 weeks, and you have it within your organization. Actually, our quick start for cases is 2 weeks. So you could be up and running in 2 weeks, and you're just measuring at least the basics. All the omnichannels are coming in, and and it's being tracked, and somebody's working on it, and you close the case. It's not integrated to all your systems and the big implementations. Just a very quick win. So that's how I'd look at it. Let's go for the quick wins, make it work. Now you can go now to management and say, all right, we've been able to track these cases for this type of cases, maybe just renewals only. And these are the success rate. These are how customers are giving us feedback. Can we now get budget to do a bigger implementation? But ideally, yeah, let's start small. Let's get a quick win.
I like that. Small, and probably James, even as you respond to that, you could share with us, have you had instances where there are some systems that couldn't completely integrate, and how did you go about handling that?
Let me start back to what Limo has said. Looking for the quick wins. If it's a CRM integration, see whether that can be done within less than a month. But I would say, I'm not sure whether we have anyone from public sector here, because you asked me whether there are systems that we have found that you can't integrate to. And I think the private sector has done pretty well. I think the challenge is at the public sector, where you find systems as old as 25 years, still someone using Microsoft DOS OS, which was decommissioned years ago, right? So in that case, what we try to do is there have to be a lot of customer education, right? Educating the owners and the people carrying these initiatives and showing them what the return on investment is, right? So the conversation has actually to start from there. And even for, I don't know who asked what we can start doing, what would be the quick wins, I would say even having these conversations is actually a win, because you now start getting ideas of what is happening in the industry, what is happening in the market, and now you start thinking of how to implement some of these within the companies and organizations that you guys are leading.
Thanks, James, for that. Purity, this conversation needs an entire morning, It is at the center of what's happening in the world of customer experience. Many organizations right now are going through digital transformation, and I'm sure CX professionals are looking at how can they then be part of that transformation to make the customer journey painless, to make it effortless, to identify what's causing the friction and how to reduce that friction. So I'm hoping that Purity is going to promise us that we are going to have a follow-up to this conversation, because I don't feel like we've really closed on it. Yeah. But I really wish to thank you, James. I wish to thank you, Limo. I'm hoping that you can also share your contacts on chat so that those members that would like to get in touch with you directly can be able to do that. This was pretty insightful, and we are looking forward to having a follow-up conversation on the same topic. Thank you so much, James. Thank you so much, Limo. Thank you so much to our audience. If there is a burning question, I don't know if Purity, there's 1 extra minute, but I'm handing us back to Purity for the closing remarks. And thank you so much, everyone. Let's aim to make our customer experience painless and seamless. Asanteni.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you very much. I can see that Unita had asked a question, but perhaps what we will do is we will collate this question from Unita together with some of the other questions that have been asked by members in advance, and we'll pose this to our 2 speakers today, and then we'll circulate answers on email to all of us. And so if you're also in the room and you had 1 more, 2 more questions to ask, please feel free to share with the Secretariat your questions, which we shall collate and share to both Limo and James. In the meantime, Limo, James, we just want to say a big thank you. You obviously know your stuff. You are a techie, but you are also appreciative of customer experience excellence, and it really came out in your responses. Thank you for taking the time and for sharing so widely and deeply with us. Truly appreciate, and we will absolutely have you back for another roundtable session just in response to Lucy's invitation. That said, you're welcome, James, and you're welcome. As we conclude, we also just want to say a big thank you to you, Lucy, for steering this ship safely to the dock and for doing it so fluidly. We knew you could do this by you. It's always great to see you in action. So thank you so much for taking the time. Members and guests, we appreciate that you stayed all the way to the end. We'd love to hear some feedback on how this meeting went. And I'd love it if my colleague Angela can just pull up the feedback poll. So if you could just give us a little feedback on your way out, we will appreciate it, because this serves to improve our future roundtable meetings. As you're giving us your feedback, allow me to leave you with some wise words from John Maxwell, who is a leadership guru. He says, leadership is not about titles, positions, or flowcharts. It is about one life influencing another. Think about these words. Regardless of what position you hold in your organization, there's plenty that we can do even with the information we've received today. And we charge you and commission you to go and do so. We're already receiving your feedback. We appreciate it. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't yet given us your feedback, please do so, even as you prepare to leave the meeting. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon and weekend ahead.